Hi, everybody. This is David P. France, and I'm coming to you from Basel, Switzerland. Before we get started, I would like all the people out there that are watching to like the video, share the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also have BitChute as well. And if you are someone that is watching the videos, feel free to share with your family and friends. Let them know what we're up to. This is David P. France TV. We are a platform for creators and creatives. And I am speaking to a longtime friend once again. He's in Los Angeles at the moment. Ed Beckford. Ed, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing well.
Hear from you again?
Say what? What did you say?
Great. Was my volume down again? Great.
No, you're fine.
It's awesome. Yeah. I wanted to again start by apologizing for the shades. I'm not trying to be Hollywood. It's just I got allergies and we're outside, and if I take them off, you all are gonna not be happy.
Well, look,
I'm protecting you.
Well, no problem from my side. I'm sure that most of the people that are watching, they're not really offended either. So, but look, I wanted to speak with you. I've been reaching out, or as you know, the last couple of weeks, because I knew that there were some things that you were up to, and then of course I saw you post recently on your social media. So if you could tell the audience what you have been up to, I think that's a good way to start, right?
Well, most relevant, I think, when you gave me the call a couple of weeks ago and said, hey, there's something going on that your analytics, that's a Dave term, we're ticking up and what's happening. And I think since our last talk, the last interview, I did a shoot with director Julie Dash for Vogue magazine and the artists Halle x Chloe. We shot out here on the beach in LA, and a great producer friend of mine, Kim Ogletree, put me down on this. And I went in as Julie's assistant director, but quickly before we started shooting, got shifted over because I have a drone company. BlackEye Vision is my company, but we call it Black Sky Vision. There's my logo. But anyway, we shifted over to do the drone footage, which was supposed to be just a lot of little accent work to enhance the piece. And then it ended up being a lot more. There were some things that went on behind the scenes, as they do, like you said, in Hollywood. They ended up using a lot of the footage, and it came out beautifully. Julie Dash, if you guys remember her from She Shot This, she's done a ton, but I think most notably, she directed the movie Daughters of the Dust, which is one huge movie that influenced me as a filmmaker. And from that video shoot, it launched. Then Vogue liked a lot of the pictures and decided to, I got a call from the producer saying that they wanted to use some of the shots from the drone footage in the magazine. So in March 2021 issue, the creativity issue, I think it's like Gigi Hadid on the cover or something like that. I open it up and there's like 5 or something of these pictures that I shot, and the centerfold, the big, beautiful double page centerfold, when I was just blown away. I got great photo credits in the magazine, which is awesome, Vogue US and Vogue.com. The whole video is up on Vogue.com. I think it's like Halle x Chloe, it'll pop up. Anyway, and then from that, just yesterday, I get a call from, a text or email from the director saying, hey, look, check this out. We got the cover of Vogue Thailand. And I was like, whoa, I opened it up and looked, and it's that big, beautiful double page picture that I shot on the cover. And I'm like, a Vogue cover, that's dope. Normally I drag my feet on things a lot because I got a lot of stuff going on, but I made sure to immediately go post this on social media because I mean, it's something that I'm very proud of. And I started getting immediate response from it. And so I think that's probably the most significant thing that's happening. I'm happening right now. I'm actually doing a TV series with Julie and the producer I mentioned, Kim Ogletree, and Kim Fields is going to be directing, and Courtney Miller, another young up-and-coming African-American director. You're going to see a lot of very soon. It's called Vicious, and it's kind of like The Devil Wears Prada meets the Glam Squad. You know, if you can imagine, it's about the fashion industry, and it's got the hair and the makeup squad, and it's like Devil Wears Prada meets Empire. And I'm telling you, the script is fire. I mean, it is dope. And so initially, I'm not sure if this is still the thing. They were going to feature all Black female directors.
Right.
But things are firing up pretty hot and heavy all over from Atlanta to LA for directors. So a lot of people are booked. So I think they're bringing in other directors as well. But I know our first director is going to be Kim Fields. I'm very excited to work with her. If you remember her from Living Single and
Facts of Life. Yeah, Facts of Life. Tootie.
Yeah.
Everybody knows, but you know what? Now I don't think people know her as Tootie. Like she's been doing it for so long that Tootie's sort of in the dust.
Plus, what I understand too is she's been directing a ton. I think it's like a lot of people, like a friend and colleague of mine, Mario Van Peebles. People know him as an actor, but don't realize that he's a prolific director. He directs a ton. He's directed Empire. He's directed a lot. And I have a feeling Kim is there as well. She's behind the scenes of doing a lot of moving and shaking. And these are people that are blazing the path for me, because this is where I'm going. This is my path.
Well, look, let me ask you a couple more questions. Like, so for example, the people that you shot the video for, like, because I see there's a generation gap, that the actors or the actresses that were featured, these are from, I'd say, are they millennial? Are they part of the millennial acting population? I mean, what is that? I should know who these actresses are, but I'm more familiar with the directors, like just. I'm thinking. I look at the two young ladies on the cover. I'm like, all right, I got to figure out who these women are, right? Because they seem like they are, moving up in the world, right? So I still see that there's a gap sometimes in terms of, I'll go through the pages of the celebrity online stuff. I'm like, who is that? Am I supposed to know who that is? Same thing for the music business, right? I went on. There was some guy named Pop Smoke. I think Pop Smoke passed away.
Oh, we were listening to him last night.
I was like, who is this guy? So I'm behind.
Well, I knew about it when he was killed. He was killed out here in Beverly Hills, sadly. I think he was shot. Yeah, he was shot at an Airbnb, I believe.
In Beverly Hills?
I believe so. I mean, I'm actually regurgitating information I haven't checked out. Last night I was with some friends. Another reason why my eyes are all puffy. And they were playing me his album, and I knew the name, I knew what went down, but I didn't know much else about him. And they were just telling me, you got to hear this music. And so they played it, and they were telling me the story that they believe, he was killed out here in LA. I think he's a New York rapper, producer. And it was, another young Black man on his way up, sadly taken from us. And that's another tragedy.
Yeah, well, we can tackle that. We can tackle that later. It's just that what I found in the blink is, even though you and I are, we can see that you're doing really well, and the directors are, like Julie Dash and Kim Fields. These people are around our age. The people that I have to now start researching are the people that are in front of the camera, right? Like, I got to get up to speed, and it almost happened in a blink. Do you understand what I mean? Like, I used to be on top of all of these.
Oh yeah,
all of this stuff.
Dude, I am so with you on that. But yeah, no, these mugs are leaving us in the smoke. We got to keep up. It's hard to keep up, man. Yeah, it's all about that. It's funny. I was talking when I was uploading the stuff about Vogue and a music video I just shot for the artist Luke Goss. I just shot in Joshua Tree called Free. It's a dope video. It's out online. We were talking about that stuff, and I was posting. They were like, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm putting it up on my Facebook. They were like,
Facebook is like for old people.
My
Facebook
mom's going to see it, but
Facebook is like for old people now.
TikTok, I have TikTok and all that account. I just don't use them yet.
Let me tell you, TikTok. I'm on TikTok now. TikTok, as they say, is fire. TikTok is fire. I mean, Ed, TikTok. I've spent more time on TikTok. The only reason why I've been slow with these interviews, you guys, is because I've been on the TikTok too long. Like, you start scrolling, and next thing you know,
you've been smoking the reefers on the TikTok.
2 hours ago, but I'm like, I'm on the TikTok still. What is the hell is going on here? But I mean, Facebook is for older people now. Like, I mean, I still am posting like yourself, but there are whole new avenues. Let me ask you real quick about SoundCloud. You're familiar with SoundCloud? Is it still seen as something that is viable, or is there something else or some other
I don't know, other than the fact that I know that most of the artists that I know still put stuff there. It's the same thing like Facebook. It may not be as relevant, but people still put stuff there. That's why I still use it, is because all the years I spent building this up, because it started out as a friends and family page, and then I tried to segue it into my business stuff and a lot of social commentary. But all of that work and using years of friends and family and colleagues, can't just toss that. That's not good business.
No.
So as far as SoundCloud specifically, the people I was with last night, that's where they were playing me the tracks from. So, and
it's an amazing time. And I mean, like, this is why we're having a conversation. You posted on Facebook the Vogue cover. I saw other people reacting to it. Now, you and I had already reached out, and I was trying to get to you even before then. So then when I saw that you had posted
it like that, like I'm all like hard to get to.
No. I mean, it was clear that you and I had conversations before we actually sat down, right? So, but in terms of, I saw the reaction from our circle, from our initial circle, right? You know, from home, and their reaction to your post. And I said, okay, clearly they now are seeing it, right? So it's important that, in other words, Facebook is still important. Right, but I do recognize, and you also recognize, that there are other venues or ways that people are.
Oh yeah, I've decided that I have to spend more time getting more into it, learning and understanding, and not just for business and because it's smart, but there's a lot of creative stuff out there. Just an artist I met on my birthday at a brunch. Her name is Bo Benton. She's been out there for a while, and she's doing projects. She just dropped an EP with Rhythm D, who was a producer for Eazy-E and Back of Ruthless Records and all that. And she was talking to me about getting her video they shot edited, cut. And I know I'm hooking her up with that, but I'm like listening to her tracks, and I'm like, forget that. I want to direct one of these tracks. They're all they're hot. Yeah, the music thing is going to become more relevant too. It's something that's always been in my life, but not on the forefront. I've been chasing this director dream for a while. I let the actor thing fall off a bit, but there's got to be this balance of business and creative. And so the answer is, yeah, I think SoundCloud's still a thing.
So you talk about the balance of business and creative. I mean, to me, this is always an issue, right? Because a lot of times it seems as if the creative side wins when the business should really have more of a say, and then vice versa, right? So,
or you can look at it the other way and say, a lot of times we pursue the creative and the business ends up winning, and because it doesn't go where it's supposed to go. That kind of failure to launch. Like you said, I got a ton of stuff, but not a lot of it is out there. And, I'm trying to capitalize on this Vogue thing to maybe, because I went in immediately and revamped my website. And so hopefully to draw more traffic to it. And maybe, I'm already getting offers for some projects. People are sending me scripts, but now it's great to have a great pile of creative content and a Rolodex of people to draw off of. But the business is how to bring it all together.
Well, it's interesting because this is what I do in my day job. When I got hired as a corporate communications person, I literally coordinate the members of the team, and each member has something specific that they know how to do. I think this whole idea of social media is now a viable thing that people pay top dollar for. Now, I should have known that, right? But I wasn't involved in it, so I didn't know, right? So as a result of working, now I can see how these, people with a lot of money and big budgets are being, being worked on by these creative teams. So in other words, and you may have to not just work on it on your own. You may have to hire somebody that really knows what they're doing.
And you're right. And I already got a couple feelers from people saying, hey, look, do you need an intern? I'm good at the SEO. I'm good at this. I'm good at that. And I'm like, I'm not all about exploiting people for free, whatever, as intern. But I'm also not about bringing people on the cheap, because everybody's time is worth, and effort and skills are worth money. I've had a lot of people, I built my career up by doing stuff for free, and you got that slow grind up to getting paid. I feel like if I just spend a little more time raising the funds and doing the things I'm supposed to do, I can bring on quality people that want to be interested, even on an entry level. and still put something in their pocket, you know, more than just their gas money. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that would just to be survive in LA, you know, people are like, oh, well, I'll give you lunch and credit. And I'm like,
Right,
you can't
that's
eat.
not good. That's not good. That's not good enough.
Yeah.
It's not good enough unless the project is such a big, you know, a big win. Look, I'll put it this way, even though I haven't worked in TV production, you know, for years, it's my experience in working there as an intern that allowed me to create this platform, you know, on YouTube, right? So even when people say, okay, you know, I've only had over a bit over 100, what do you call it, followers or members or whatever you want to call it. But that's not even the point for me. It's all about the process of putting it together. That's the thing that is interesting to me. Is saying, okay, I'm going to talk to Ed. I'm going to talk to him about this. Then we're going to post it. Then we're going to like make sure it gets out to as many people, right? And then we're going to try to milk it. And it's no different than if we had a TV show and we were just starting.
You know, and if this time we can work, I can work on it from my end as well, because, you know, this is going to help me and support me. I need to reciprocate, you know, and help you get this word out. Like Beyonce, I didn't know this was a YouTube channel. I thought it was just a bit shoot. That's how I saw it. And then be honest with you, after doing the last interview, I don't think I really watched it. So I was kind of, well, no, not because of that.
Wait, look, hardly anybody does though, because you're going to
I didn't mean it like that. I meant like I watched the hot model chick interview.
Hey, look. Hey,
I
look.
don't need to watch myself again.
Hey, look, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. I was thinking about her today, right? Right around the time that, because I literally started cutting the very long footage into bits, right? So that people could actually digest. So I told her, I said, look, I'm going to cut it into 5 different pieces. And they're all going to be like maybe 2 to 4 minutes, right? Now, when I first booked that interview, people watched the whole length of it. But now what's happening is my little crew on Facebook, it's more difficult to get that little nugget out through that same avenue because people are sort of blasé about it, even though you and I are not, right? So people are not actively, yeah, I already saw that interview. So they're not
branding,
you know, they're not watching it again. So that means I have to find a new way to get that out, right? Yeah. But that interview was very, very well done. And I believe that because of that interview, she's going to start getting more stuff. I think she realizes it now, because I'm like, look, you're still an asset. You know, don't think that just because you're not on the cover of something that you're not a living, breathing asset. You are. And watch what happens. Every person is, Ed. Every person is. And it's just a matter of being able to bring them in, and this is the same from your side, bringing them in and letting them do what they do.
You know, to kind of segue a little bit, is one of the other big things that's going on in my world is over COVID, I had a realization that I wanted to pivot. I didn't want to leave the whole Hollywood thing behind, because I've spent 15 years in LA here and way more back east building to this point. But I wanted to, going back to that personal content stuff, I want to pivot to my family is doing a big genealogy thing. We're all coming together. It's so cool. My mom reached out and found a researcher who worked a lot, or did some work for some researchers that worked with Henry Louis Gates Jr. and the whole Finding Your Roots thing. Mm-hmm. And she reached out and she got Nika Smith is her name on board, and she's helping our family drill down on our roots. And my sister who's been involved for a long time, and my grandmother who passed had a lot of stuff. Jane Cotton, she's a wonderful artist. She passed away at 98. She had already done, I think she had researched our family back 125 years. My Uncle Stanley, who's a doctor up in Michigan, he's on board. Julia Davis, my cousin out in Atlanta, she's working at teaching, I think, at TGTA at Spelman. All these people are coming on board, and it just sparked this passion inside of me. And it was like a light bulb went off. And I'm like, I'm talking about pivoting, staying within the film industry and pivoting documentary. And I've always wanted to do a documentary about my family on my father's side, Beckford, all the way back to Jamaica, because we have these roots back to Jamaica. And my grandmother is from St. Kitts and Nevis in the West Indies.
And so you guys are West Indian? You guys are West Indian?
Yeah.
There's no southern African American roots.
Say what?
There's no southern. There's no. I mean, what is the extent? Do you know?
Well, the quick one on my mother's side, my grandmother, like our history that was traced back was that I think how we came about. Yeah, I think there's some Carolina roots,
right? But
in the terms of like 125 years ago, and don't catch me out on the lie, because this is all still being researched. Family lore had it that we had some Haitian and Arawak Indian roots. And a guy, I think, again, I'm researching this now. My grandmother, I think she said his name was Charles de Boyat or something like that. And apparently he was like a governor in Haiti back in the over 100 years ago. And he was not a nice guy. He was probably, from what I was told, kind of like a Papa Doc kind of guy, which is really terrible. But run out in the middle of the night in a coup with his family landed in France, became like university professors in France. I believe that's where the bloodlines got mixed up for the skin colors and things.
Yeah, because you guys are red. Everybody in your family, at least the media family, is red.
I'm not my father, not my sister, not a lot
your sister has a bit of you and your mom, definitely, right?
Oh yeah. My grandmother, we're an even mix. But so then from what family lore is left France, came over to Canada. Came from Canada down into the Michigan, Indiana area, migrated down into the Carolinas, got, I think, jammed up by the slave trade, being threatened to be sold into slavery. So jumped in with the Underground Railroad, escaped back up into Canada, and then ended up migrating back down into where our family is a lot now in Detroit, and in Knightstown, Indiana is where a lot of our family roots are from. And so there's the Southern Carolina route that led back up north and then settled back down Midwest. And all that's being traced and tracked now. Very, very interesting and exciting stuff. So I'm thinking just the story of my grandmother alone, Edna Jane Hemer Saunders Rudd Cotton. She's married many times. Amazing artist. We're archiving her work now. Just doing a story, 35 years in the New York City school system, teaching art in the PS system in New York. And so I was talking to some art professionals about her work, because somebody saw some of her work and was blown away, and we're like, oh, African-American artists are hot. We got to get her stuff out there. And they were saying, but now we need to research her students for 35 years in New York. You know how many of her students probably went on to have prolific careers in art, which we can show her influence on those. One of which is a very, very good friend of mine, Brian Philpott, who I wish I could show you some of his work right now. I have here, he did a portrait of me off of a picture that I shot in Australia years ago. Very unique and interesting stuff. Maybe I'll just send you some clips of that. But Brian segued his career, and my grandmother taught him. And my grandmother, who taught me and my sister art, she taught Brian, and Brian has turned it into a full-time career, and he is just on fire, dude. His artwork is so unique and interesting. I'd show it to you right now, but I don't want to screw up our.
No. I don't want you to mess up in the camera and get that. No. But what's interesting, Ed, is that I didn't necessarily know how far your roots extended with regard to art. So I only knew, okay, you did music, you're an actor. And you and I were on the gymnastics team. You were there, you were in the mix, but I didn't necessarily know, your family background. I only met your mom and your sister once or twice, right?
My family is hugely talented. All those years of going to school, and I'm sure you know this growing up, they're like, oh, they very nurtured all of our skills and our strengths and our everything. And then comes time to go to college, and they're like, what do you want to do? I'm like, oh, I want to go to NYU and study acting and film. And they're like, yeah, no, seriously, what do you want? I'm like, you're going to go to Morehouse and you're going to study medicine. And that's what We do. It's like back in the day, their day, you didn't pursue your hobbies because it's what you love. The African Americans, Black people didn't have that privilege. They're like,
No, no.
did that on the side. But
Well, you know what, Ed? If you had pursued it let me put this in at the time that we were in high school, there were so many of us that were, let's say, 5 to 10 years older that were going to LA and pursuing it. So in other words, just like what you're seeing now with the people that are leading the country, you see, Kamala Harris, she's a VP. Like, you're starting to see the diversification of areas of work where previously we weren't, involved in huge numbers, right? So around the time, I mean, that was like Arsenio Hall, right? Eddie Murphy. Like, we were only a couple of years out from those guys, right? It really, when you think about it. And when you think about, Halle Berry, all of these people ended up making a career there, right? And I think because we grew up in a certain way, I think that's why you moved to Washington, you kind of did all this other stuff. And then you said, okay, screw it, I'm gonna go out to LA, right? And so you managed to catch up, in a very short period of time.
Yeah. It's all very interesting. But I'm thinking the natural pivot for me is going to be the passion of learning more about my family and our roots and documenting it, and having the privilege of, like, Dr. Gates and even Ken Burns, who laid out the formats for us.
Yeah, they keep going. Keep going.
He laid out the formats for us, template, but the stories are priceless. I mean, I knew about the amazing nature of my family. I'll give you an example. So there's, do you remember a movie called Rosewood, John Singleton? He did a movie called.
Sure. I didn't see it. I don't remember seeing it, but of course I remember it.
It was about a Black man who was on his way home from work. I think stopped at some white neighbor's house for a drink or water. Anyway, got accused of raping a white woman and then lynched or whatever. And then the white people came in and burned the town of Rosewood. Something like that. I remember back then when it came out thinking, oh my God, that's the story I heard about our family. Like that, did he steal my story? Duh. To figure out that later, to come find it, it was just a very common story that it happened a lot. And so my lovely Bryony, who's my fiance, has delved down, and along with my mom, who went to the museum, found a museum that documents all the lynchings in the country, and they found our relative that was lynched. So that turned out to be more than lore, family lore. It turned out to be a real unfortunate story. And again, another part of the documentary, or a separate documentary on its own. And one might think, oh, we've heard all these stories before. You've heard stories before. You haven't heard each individual story. And each individual story has nuances and facets that make them all different and unique. And I think that is just going to be a labor of love and passion. I'll always pursue Hollywood, whatever. But I think as far as producing and directing on my side, I think having the privilege of also, it's what they said, that thing they say is like, find the thing that you love and you'll never work another day in your life. I can't think of anything more I would be in love with is getting closer to my family that's still in existence, learning more about my family that's not, and all of us coming together for this project, documenting it, putting it out to the world. And, I'm about to start archiving my grandmother's paintings, hundreds of paintings that are all dispersed all throughout the family. And I want to go there and get high resolution, content, and build a website and have an archive and a family archive. It just, to me, it sounds like a lifetime of love and work. And I'm excited. For a long time, it's been since I've been this excited about the future of filmmaking.
So let me just throw this out to you. All right, someone calls you tomorrow and they say, Ed, we got this budget, right? $10 million, right? We need you to direct it, right? But the script is not completely done yet.
I've had this phone call, by the way.
The script is not completely done yet, all right? So what, and we've secured one high-level actor or actress for the project. How does that conversation normally then progress from your perspective?
I'd say first thing I say is, can I read the script? You know, and then before you send it to me, get yourself an NDA, because, you know, and it's nothing personal. It's just good business. Protect yourself, protect your content. Send me the script. I'll read it. And if it's something that resonates and I think is worth it, I then will say, hey, look, now I'm going to dive into what I do, my Rolodex, and let's find a writer that could co-write with you or finish it for you, or however you want to proceed, because ultimately it's your project. You know, bringing it to me is great, because again, if it resonates, that means I see, I try to, it sounds weird, but, and it might be my Arrested Development, I try to work on things that I like, as opposed to just like, oh, well, this is lipstick on a pig, but it's a paycheck, so I'll just take it. I did that for a long time in the beginning, but man, that's how you grind yourself down. You know what I mean? It's just chasing money. So that's the next step for me, is like, can I read it? Get yourself an NDA, send it. I like it. Okay, let's find some other writers to develop it with you or for you, or however you want to do it. And then we get it and we take it and we pitch it. There's so many different ways to pitch it now. And it's amazing how many vehicles there are out there. Of course, there's 10 times or 100 times more competition.
Yeah, of course.
Well, but you know, that's not a terrible thing. You know, I mean, access now is amazing. Like, you ever notice the difference now? It used to be there was a writer and there was some anonymous person in the background who sold the script or whatever, and then the directors, producers, they make this movie. Notice how nowadays, if you look at the credits, the director and the executive producers of movies are often the people that wrote the movie.
Sure. Yeah,
and that's for a reason. It's like, it's content. It's the same thing you were saying earlier about music and artists that are controlling their masters and Pop Smoke, and they're like all these people that were doing these big things. You're like, how are these people I've never heard of balling like this? They're because the traditional record label system is not the end all and be all anymore. These people have all these venues online to go market their own stuff and get it out there, and they own their intellectual property. That's the key. Own your intellectual property. It may take a little bit longer to get it up and done and running, but if it's something you really love and passionate about, what else are you going to do?
Well, I think when you think about somebody like a Master P, right, or even the NWA and how they put together their records, now, you know, it's accessible to everyone now. You just have to have a really great group of people, which is what I was telling you before we started the conversation here, which is, it's all about the team. It's all about who you have on your team. If you have scrubs on your team, it's not going to finish this. It's not going to get to the finish line, right? Let me throw this out to you, and I want to get your opinion on this. I happened to watch the Paris Hilton documentary. And let me tell you how I found out about it. There's a young guy, about 31 years old, who gives advice. He apparently some big YouTuber, pops up on my feed. I watched a couple of his videos. Amazing what this guy's doing. Right? In fact, I'm learning, I'm taking notes in terms of how he does his content and how he gets likes, you know? So he mentions something about Paris Hilton's documentary and how she came up, which was not the easiest way. I'm like, wait a minute, she didn't come up easy. Like, so I, you know, of course, in my head, the story is like, hey, she's a rich girl, blah, blah, blah. Well, apparently she was tortured or something, or went to a school where they were, you know, implementing some heavy disciplinary practices, which sort of is the basis of how she became successful. All from a YouTube conversation from one guy who dropped this like that. I immediately type in Paris Hilton, and that's how I got the view. And I watched the whole thing. Had no idea about this. I had no idea that she was, you know, someone that was tortured, you know, more than what we knew. And I think that's the way nowadays, like, in other words, this interview, a lot of people saw the last interview of you and myself, and that's was the setup for, I think, even for me to keep track of you. The way that I saw your name in the analytics was that I can see every video that's seen.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you
about
the
numbers, and the numbers of views. So usually, I mean, it's only if it's the last thing that I uploaded. Well, in the case of you, that interview was done months ago. And then all of a sudden I see Ed Beckford, 2 or 3 views. So that, alerted me to the fact that somebody had at least typed your name in. That video came up and they started watching it. Right. So you can break your music on YouTube. You can break your film on YouTube. You can actually do a documentary on YouTube that gets picked up by the majors because of the views. Another guy is a guy named Kevin Samuels. I don't know if you know this guy. He's a self-help guy, and he's very popular now, to the point where, like, they're now, the women out there are hating on him because he's telling women now how they have to conduct in order to get men and blah, blah, blah. Well, there's a song that he did during the halftime of his marathon of a show online, and the song was so good, Ed, that he literally took the part from that interview with the song that he used, and now it's a standalone video on YouTube. And oh, wow. I believe that he broke that song. That interview, because he used it as the intermission. As soon as the intermission came, they had a little go-go girl dancing, a little, foxy girl dancing in the little corner screen. That held my attention the entire, even more so than an interview.
Wow, nice.
Right? So when you say there's more than one way to break, we are now living in the age where you can break your own material. Now, you may have to have some sort of, thought process behind it, but the time is now. It clearly is now. I mean, there are people that are making moves and making lots of money on their content on YouTube.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, and it's not new. It's been for years. Yes. At least 10 years that I know. It's like just casting in movies are like, all right, first thing I'm gonna do is pop open IMDb Pro or Instagram and see what the numbers are. And let's send some offers out to these people. You know what I mean? It's like, if you don't have that social media following, I mean, not every movie, obviously, but a lot of movies, you could almost call it casting by algorithm. You know what I mean? It's just like they look at those numbers, they know who they want beforehand because they know they're going to bring that many eyes to the project. That means money. That means, and that's all part of it. It's like people have been doing it for a long time, but now it's like everybody kind of knows about it. Doesn't mean you're good at it. I mean, obviously, but you're right. There's just way too many ways right now for, stuff to break. And it's like beyond the days of just, oh my God, that's dope. And it's getting a lot of radio play. So now, boom. No, it's all by design. Before you even know it, before it's even put out, there's a plan in place and luckily there's a lot of vehicles to help make it happen.
Well, let me take you back to the 80s when we came up in New York, New Jersey, New York, rather. One of the things that I like to, how do I say? I like to romanticize that era because there was an organic process in place where all these artists came out of, New York mainly. Right. So one of the reasons why I loved living in the South Orange Maplewood area was because that we had access to all those artists, on New York radio. And I don't think there has never been anything else quite like that experience. I mean, it used to be where LA was back then. LA was where everything was going on. And all of a sudden there was a shift to New York because of rap and hip hop. And the artists were coming out like, you know how it was. Like, you turn on the radio, you would hear these fantastic people doing their thing. And I think, and this is what I think I strive to do on this platform, is that I'm like, that's the only way it's going to work again, is that I can get as many people, online interviewing them and letting them, letting people know what they're up to. Now, we're not all in New York, right? We're, kind of spread out all over the place. And we're not hip hop artists,
Right.
but we are doing some stuff. And we have done things in the past, right? So it's, I'm doing my part. In other words, I'm doing my part.
Oh, yeah. Hey,
Right.
any way you can make moves, make moves. And there's no rule book.
No, there's no rule
Especially
book.
out here now. This is the Wild West again out here. It's like, if you can, it's so corny, dude. I think the quote in my high school yearbook was some corniness that was like, if you can dream it, you can believe it, whatever. Well, if your mind can conceive it, you can achieve it, or whatever. It's basically true. It's true now. I mean, at least you have a really good fighting chance now, and it all depends about your own personal hustle. And,
let me ask you another question real quick. When you talk about Hollywood, did you have a perception of what Hollywood was, and then when you went out there, what it actually was, and then, how did you feel about that? How did you rectify those two different perceptions or feelings, right?
Well, that's interesting, because I think, yes, I did, but it's not that anymore. That's really complicated, man. That's like another hour, but I'll try and condense it into a couple minutes.
Yeah, give me the cliff notes. Give me the cliff notes of what you think.
I don't really recall what I thought Hollywood would be, because I don't know that I necessarily was thinking, I'm going to go to Hollywood. I think I just wanted to go to Los Angeles, where people were doing what I wanted to do more than they were where I was back east. I was going to the show. It was like coming from the minor leagues to the major leagues. And it was like, when your day job back east, like for instance, I would bartend, I would wait tables, and then I would do acting, I do shows, commercials. I was on the West Wing and commercials and stuff like that. And then you go back to bartending and waiting tables, and somehow I ended up in news and was working at the White House and all that kind of stuff. But then you did your creative, and then you went back to work. Well, my vision of coming to LA was my day job would be within the industry. Like when I went to work, it wasn't to wait tables or bartend. It was to go to the studio. And I started off, I came out here, I had some credits, from New York on down to Atlanta and DC and all that. But I came back out here and I basically started over again. And I literally, it's the go get me coffee story. But I hustled. My first gigs were as a production assistant on set, and I wasn't making any money. And you have to have a car, you have to have a cell phone, you have to have a computer. But I went and I made sure I was the first on set, and I was the last off set. It didn't matter what the department was. You saw me hustling. And I think I only did that for maybe 2 or 3 jobs, not 2, maybe 3 or 4 jobs. Very short period of time before somebody takes notice and says, oh, that mug's got some hustle. I want to bring you on to the next thing and I'll pay you a little bit. Yeah. And then I started my way back up to that way. And that was my conception of Hollywood, and was that I could spend my whole day and at work and off work pursuing the creative. And that was real, that was true. Difference is that was pre-2008. I had the privilege of moving to LA at the end of 2006 and getting ramped up 2007 right into the crash of 2008. The economic crash, the writers' strikes, the SAG strikes, the economic country, everything and there was this mass exodus from LA because it was just too expensive to live here and not enough work. And luckily, I had enough contacts already built up at that point to where reality TV was also starting to get very real. And but back then, working on reality TV was synonymous with working in porn. It was like you did it and you got paid, but you didn't put your name on the project. So you didn't want that to look on your resume, right? But I had a friend, a colleague who got me on a show. I don't know, my first show was, I think it might have been Flavor of Love, a company called 51 Minds. And for 4 years, I started off driving the van to the airport, picking up the reality stars, TV people, and driving them to the hotel, and then going and doing the craft services shopping and building. And I worked my way up to assistant coordinator position after 4 years, 51 Minds. We did like Flavor of Love and For the Love of Ray J and Rock of Love and Charm School with all of them, Ricky Lake and all the different hosts. Sharon Osbourne, I was there the day Sharon Osbourne whooped that chick's butt on camera. I was there, and that was real.
I have to research that, because I mean,
yeah, don't fuck with Sharon.
oh yeah,
real.
well, that's known.
That was fake. It was not fake.
No, I think that was known. It's known because of her days as a music manager.
Yeah, G's the gents. Dude punched dude out on set. G's the gents. Wow, we did all of it. Oh, a Rock of Love bus. I Love Money. I Love New York. I remember the day we got shut down because the FBI came to the studios in Burbank and shut the offices down because one of the cast members from one of the shows, I think it was I can't remember what show it was on. But dude secretly married one of the other chicks, winners from another show, and took her and murdered her, chopped her up, put her in suitcases, threw her in a dumpster, and then ran off into Canada and killed himself.
Oh, geez.
And they showed up to the offices to collect all the shoot video because it was all evidence, because they were dating on the show previous to all this happening. And that was a lot of people got their pink slips. That was like seasons worth of material that was just like going into the evidence bin. They bought everybody lunch that day. There was Mongolian barbecue and said, only the editors are staying to finish cutting, and the rest of you, peace. So that kept me in LA. That reality TV kept me in Los Angeles.
I think it was the thing that, I mean, look, it's cheap to make. Like, let's say, put yourself in the place of a studio head or a network president of some sort. They're gonna be like, how much is this gonna cost me, and how much money can I make? Versus like when you produce a whole TV show, with real actors or whatever. Yeah, you get some crazy people to come, and act out, and you made more money that way. I mean, it's sad because like a lot of the stuff that you and I grew up on, it doesn't exist. The quality of the work doesn't exist, but it is the bread and butter for at least a certain period of time.
Well, I mean, there was, and you're right, there was a range of levels of projects. 51 Minds at the time, I believe the owners were Chris Abrego and Mark Cronin, I believe, were the two owners. And one of them was synonymous with doing the rock shows, Rock of Love and Flavor of Love. And the other one was synonymous with crazy game shows like I Love Money and Real Chance and all these different shows we did. So the mansion shows, like where they put the chicks up in a mansion or the guys in a fancy house. Bentley was the guy's name, Bentley, whatever. And some of the budgets were huge and some of the budgets were not so huge, but the output was consistent. There was this hunger for all that was reality at the time. And it took off. It got to the point where it was no longer hush hush to put your name on the project. It was like for 4 years, reality TV became my reality. And I really appreciate it. I met a lot of people that I still work with to this day. Matter of fact, one of the other guys that I started off with, and I was just driving the vans, and we were not high up in the organization. Johnny Ice, he's on KLOS, the Heidi and Frank show on KLOS right now. Johnny Ice he was in the trenches with me. And we still keep in touch. As a matter of fact, it's funny. I just posted a thing which showed him where he rocked my swag, my BlackEye hat on the thing, and sent me a picture from my website, just as an homage to two of us saying, like, look where we started and look where we are now. And it's very important not to burn bridges. Johnny and I were getting coffee back. I mean, that's term, just running errands back then. And now he's on the radio, and I'm hustling, trying to do my thing too.
Well, Ed, if someone like Wendy Williams is reporting on reality stars, and that's how I learned about most of them, then that at that moment I realized, oh, they just entered the realm of mainstream, right? So I didn't know about any of those housewives. I didn't know about the only one I knew was Nene. That was it. That's the only one that I really knew. But check us out. I recently found out, just the same way I went on YouTube, that one of those housewives is a prolific songwriter that wrote mega songs and has written mega songs for major artist. To the point where when I found out about it, and I can't remember the woman's name, I should know it. When I found out about it, I was shocked. I was shocked. But I was like, she had to go on a reality show for people to actually come to the point where they understood that she'd been writing music since the late 80s.
You know, that's so interesting you say that, because that's how you're right. A lot of these people on the surface, you know them as this, but underneath there's so many layers. I remember when I first got here, I got approached to do a dating show because I moved to LA when I was 40. You know, and people were like, "Oh my God, you're going to LA at 40? Like, you're not 20 years old and you've already shot a feature? Like, what are you, crazy?" And I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, but you knew that you knew what was going to happen. You knew.
Well, I got out here and I got approached to do a show, a reality show called, it was about what it's like dating in LA and Hollywood at 40. And I was with somebody at the time. I was with a woman who actually saved my butt in my career and helped keep me in LA, Kelly Hughes, back then. I said, you know what? I'm going to have to go on all these dates with all these people on this show. And she was like, you know what? It's a way to get your exposure. It's a way to get your name out there. I want you to go ahead and do it. It's not going to threaten. And I started to, and then I thought about it. And I think it was my wise mother who told me, "Oh, so wise always." And she was like, "Turn it around." And I do this to this day. Flip it. How would you feel if you watched your significant other dating, even if it's just TV and it might not be real or whatever, but you know, you're still to some level. So you know what? I thought about it and I was like, you know what? I don't think I would have been down with it. So
But Ed, it's Hollywood. It's Hollywood. Like, even she knew that it was Hollywood. I mean, it's all about illusion, right? So.
Well, I was very
innocent. It's all about illusion.
I'm very innocent then. We talked to a buddy of mine, a colleague of mine, gave me my first leading role in a movie. It's called Insecurity. The director was Hugh Burris and James Cosgrove Jr., James Cosgrove. And we shot that and came out here and they were doing a film festival. And somehow the quick version of this, because James is going to be mad, it's going to refresh his memory, was they re-edited the movie and it wasn't what we remembered and it didn't show up to the film festival and a bunch of us didn't, and it ended up winning the festival. And the guy got approached for the role and by William Morris and was like, "Hey, we want to meet him," and I wasn't there. So that was my naivete back then about like, oh, because I didn't like the edit, I'm not going to go to this thing that might help further my career. And then I did get out here to LA and went to dinner with that producer, James, and some other up-and-coming African-American producers and artists. And we sat, I think it was the Dresden or something. We sat in there having this meeting, and they asked me how I felt about the project. And I told them the truth about how I didn't like the edit. Basically, I didn't say something positive. And James ended up not making that deal. And man, he was
pissed off. He's pissed off. And sometimes it's not about, come on, Ed. Come on. Ed, sometimes, like, even if the project, like, in other words, maybe, I mean, I'm feeling you from one side because.
But this was 15 years ago.
Yeah, back then I could see, right? Now, I'm just like, whatever. I don't have the thing. I'd be like, I would look at the one positive thing and be like, you know. Well,
I know that now. I know that
you can
now.
say, and you'd be telling the truth. It's not like
I always thought, that's the thing about coming into Hollywood and thinking you're going to retain your integrity is a good thing, but you also have to be smart about it, because it's like you just said, I could have thought of the positive things to talk about, but in my mind, I was just like, well, you saw it and I saw it. And if I sit here and try and put, say that it's something that it wasn't, you're going to look at me like I'm a bullshit. And then I always thought people that could believe you and look you dead in the eye and trust what you say and all that kind of stuff held up more integrity, but I forgot where I was. So
even the top,
I don't know if that's just Hollywood.
Somebody like a Quentin Tarantino, right? No, somebody like a Quentin Tarantino, he's got to, like, how can I put this? Let's say if you're working with like some of the top people, right? And they do some crap stuff, you're going to say, but I work with Tarantino. I was like, you're going to find, like, but I work with Tarantino. That's all you got to know, right? Like whether it was great or bad, my opinion is irrelevant.
I was so close to just being able to work with Robert De Niro and John Malkovich on a movie, and it didn't happen. I did a movie a couple months back, end of 2020, with the producer from The Irishman, Randall Emmett, and he directed the film that I was working on. And I was hoping to move on with them to the next project, but it didn't happen. We parted ways. But you're right. It's just I'm way smarter now.
Well, look,
I still think you can maintain integrity and not bullshit, but I think there's a way to say things. And I think you hit it the nail on the head when you just said, think about the positive part of it and talk about that.
Yeah,
there's
always. And look, even when I think about what happened to me coming up, trying to get into media and some of the negative things that have happened, the great thing I can at least say now from this perspective, sitting here, interviewing, speaking with you, is that, hey, look, at least I was there. I was there. You guys, I was there, right? That's all you know.
There's a lot of people I know that aren't here anymore. They're not in the room. So, but then, that's an interesting kind of thing as well, is that you don't always have to be here either. You don't have to be in LA. Look at Atlanta. Atlanta, believe it or not, is more than just Tyler Perry. Although Tyler Perry's huge and has done a ton and a lot for Atlanta and the industry as a whole. Mm-hmm. But there's so much going on. There's, Vancouver and television, and New Orleans, I hear is ramping back up. I mean, you don't have to be here. Going back to that social media thing, just on a creative level alone, you can do it. Pull those scripts and those stories and those plays and those shorts and those books and those poems, pull them out of your drawers and get them out there. And if they're not ready, there are people that can help get them ready. People don't have to sit on their part, their passion, their love anymore. Even if it's not about the money alone, or do you know how many great scripts I gotta imagine are stuck in somebody's drawer right now?
Sure.
That nobody else can see.
Sure.
Because they think, oh, I had that happen to me a couple years back here in LA. I wrote a short and I put it out there, and the feedback I got from someone was, why should anybody care other than you? This story was just, it's like, it kind of knocked me back on my heels a bit, and it made me think about it. And it was, but then when you add in how you shoot it and the content of it, and it really means something to it. And there's so many elements up to it that you don't have to blow shit up in order to make it interesting.
No,
you don't have to have tits and ass and everything in order to sell. Good, poignant, and he was right. Maybe this was more of a documentary type of thing. Maybe this is there's just so many different ways and avenues to go make your money, pay your bills, take care of your family and your friends, but you can also take care of your heart and as well.
Well, I think now there's no excuse. I mean, you can do whatever you want to do. You have camera equipment, all kinds of camera equipment it's available now. It's about putting it together and putting it out there. And I think there are enough people out there. There are enough people out there that want to be a part of something good. Look, I wanted to look up the person who is the reality star, Candace Burris, Candace from the Real Housewives. She was part of the group Escape, and she wrote. I think her contributions were on the TLC hit No Scrubs.
Okay. Wow.
Do you understand what I mean? Like, I had to look it up because it's like, when I tell Ed what this woman has done, and online there is some magazine, I think it's Cosmo, that did sort of like we're going to, throw out a lyric from one of your songs and you have to guess it, right? So of course I'm like, I didn't know I only knew what No Scrubs. That's how I figured it out. Then I went to the video. She wrote some major hits.
Wow. Yeah.
And she wrote major hits. And I think the irony is, like, how come I just now know about this? Because she's on reality show, right? And it supports my whole idea of creating this platform, because I feel that we should know who she is before she goes on the reality show. Do you understand what I mean? So I'm looking for people like yourself to come on and speak to us about what you guys are doing behind the scenes. I think it's just as important, if not more important, than the people that are in front of the camera. Right? And
no, you're right. This
I'm
is an invaluable. This is an invaluable thing that you're doing right now. So there's another big LA sound.
Yeah. But I mean, and look, you remember, and I'm gonna bring this up, and I'm gonna give you the last word. Was I knew that you were talented because we used to make those the interview we did.
Oh, don't.
And it look. What we did was different than what they do on radio now, right? Like in the morning, it was like we had our own little, breakfast club, but we happened to do it sort of in an afternoon where we were literally thinking up jingles and little skits and whatever off the fly. And that's really what it's about.
All that stuff, we talked about that last time, man, the whole slam book mentality thing and how we lost our friends over it. I've always regretted that to this day because I think some people took it the wrong way. I lost a good friend, Chris Johnson, from back in the day that I miss him a lot, but I wish, all the fun we used to have, and you talk about Wendy Williams, all that kind of stuff, that takes a special kind of.
It does. We were not at that level. We were not at a Wendy Williams level.
No, but I mean, it was precursor to that. I mean, it was basically, we were doing a lot of things we were doing back then that people are making buku bucks now. Like the kids now, they think they invented skateboarding and snowboarding, all that. We were doing all that stuff back then. God, I sound so old. But
well, Ed, we are up there now. You know this, right? I mean, we're up there. We're up there in age. It doesn't feel like it because it doesn't feel like
in age. Okay, thanks.
We're up there. I mean, I'm 53. You see what I mean? Like that's grandpappy.
Not possible. I'm only 23.
But somehow I'm still, throwing off 40 vibes.
I still dig it though, man. I got you beat at 53, but dude, I earned these years. I earned every one of them. So people are like, oh, you could pass. Then you take 10 years off for your acting career. Fuck that. I earned these years. I'm proud of it.
Of course.
But you're right. It sounds interesting to hear it come from outside of my head from somebody else. But
dude, we're up there.
We're
up there now. And that's why I said when you shot the video of the drone video of the two young ladies, I was like, I don't even know who they are. I know who Julie Dash is. I know all these other people. I'm like, I guess I'm supposed to know who they are.
I got a note from my life producer over there who said it's Chloe X Halle, not the other way around. So.
Oh, see, you better get it right.
I got it.
Right. Ed, you better get it right. These young people are coming up. And look, what's fascinating to me is, just like the backstory of this Candace Burns, right? I'm always interested in how people come up. I'm always interested. So if they get a little, nugget of their story, and I can, they somehow get it in my, I'll follow it right up. I'll go right up the line. So when we finish, I will go online and find out who these young ladies are. And,
well, check. There's a link to the video on my website. It's blackeyevision.com, like blackeyevision.com. I just updated it, so there's a lot of the current work. I haven't put up, I have the cover, the Vogue covers up there, the music video I shot, I produced, and is up there. I'm going to do a section with like up and coming things, I would love to reach out. I wanted to thank you, Ellen, for reaching out to Dave. I was excited. I saw you online this morning congratulating for the Vogue cover.
Ellen is a friend of ours from South Orange who actually emailed me and said, hey, Ed is doing these great things. And I said, I know, I've already spoken to him last week or so.
Our whole crew from Ellen and Lynn Irby, Carl George. I'm I'm in touch with some of the old mugs from the hood. We're doing a little investment company thing. I started working in cryptocurrency, trying to figure out this non-fungible.
Have you figured it out?
I figured it out where I'm in it a little bit. I got a toe in, but it reaches way back. I still got a little connection to home. I miss it sometimes.
I'll ask you this as the final thing. Now, the reason why Ellen and I had been talking is that she, like a lot of other people that came up in South Orange, Maplewood, she feels, and I also feel this way, that it was a special neighborhood or a special town, a special group of people that lived in those townships. What is your take on South Orange, Maplewood, and why is it important from your perspective? What's the big deal about coming up or growing up in South Orange or Maplewood, New Jersey?
Because we had it was weird. It was looking back now, we had a nice little close-knit clique of friends and people, you know, Kendall and Tway Whitlock and, Kathy and, all of us. I mean, it was a connection. I mean, we did things, back then we thought we did it, and we supported each other, I mean, sometimes maybe back then it didn't seem like it, but when you look back, we really did, remember Audio Connection Disco?
Yeah, sure. Of course.
And all kinds of like little endeavors and projects and Lynn and Leslie putting on dance and Ellen and all them in there and Quay and Kendall, they're out there doing things. And I don't know, South Orange will always be home in my mind. When I think back to I was born in Montclair, raised in Montclair to the age of 10, but my substantive life came up in South Orange. And when I think of home, I think people run down New Jersey, but they don't know. Jersey, it's home. It's the Garden State. New Jersey's Garden State for a reason. It's beautiful. We had a close-knit community. We had an African-American community. We had Italian community. We had a Jewish community, and everybody synced up. Everybody synced up. Not always perfectly. I'm not going to put, rose-colored glasses on. There was some shit. There always is. But for the most part, if you think back, it was a pretty damn pleasant upbringing and environment. You know what I mean? Beautiful place, the village, hanging out in the village.
Right.
I know some of us couldn't wait to get the hell out of there. But, that's just the yearning and desire to get out into the big wide world. And now that we're out here, my heart always goes back to think of home a lot. Now, I've visited a few times back. I've yet to go to a reunion, though, for some reason. Is that strange?
Well, yeah.
Is it strange? Have you gone back to any?
I don't know. I've been to a couple of the reunions. They are actually, the last one we had was very good because we decided not to have it in a hotel. We had it in someone's bar. Someone in our class has a bar. In
what bar?
It was, I don't remember, but it was off the hook. It was amazing because he was the owner, right? So we were there till like 3 o'clock in the morning talking, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Bars, remember the Loke and Cryans and
look, I didn't do that. You were doing stuff I wasn't. You were doing stuff I wasn't doing. But I mean, I think, let's say for me, it became more important as years went by. Same thing for my undergraduate experience. I didn't necessarily partake in everything, but I realized very quickly after graduation and many years out, I was like, I said, South Orange really made me. I had all of my, formative experience in South Orange, Maplewood school system.
It's funny that I didn't really think that I liked it while I was actually there. I don't know if
you probably didn't, but I'm saying in hindsight, compared to what other people experienced.
I mean, when I got to rephrase that. I'm not going to say I didn't like it. We did a lot of things. I just played a lot of sports. I did a lot of music. I did a lot of theater. I mean, I liked it for that and community. But for some reason, the part that I didn't like was, I think back to, especially like at Columbia, I remember all the creative stuff. I don't remember a lot of the academic stuff at all.
No, that's not. I mean, I'm in the same situation. Like I remember which classes, the classes that I got called out in. Do you understand what I mean?
Remember how many principals we went through? Didn't we go through like 3, 4 principals?
I don't remember. I just remember the classes that were extremely hard that I was in, and I was like, I was not the top person in those classes, but I gave them a run for their money, for sure. Wasn't like I was at the bottom. It wasn't like I was at the bottom, but I clearly was not at the top. And when, let's say, for example, when I was accepted to my college, University of Pennsylvania, I think one of the reasons why I got in was because of all that shit I was doing that was extracurricular, where I was killing it. But I didn't know I was killing it, Ed. I did not know that I was killing it. I had no, because I was comparing myself to everybody else.
It always comes back to this, doesn't it? The connection. That's our original connection. So I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I was like, well, you know, I'm doing this, and this, but my grades are like, okay. But literally, look, Ed, the stuff that we did, the stuff that we, and I'll let you get the last word, stuff that we did in high school is now the reason why you and I are talking.
Oh, it was definitely an incubator for it. Absolutely.
Right. And this is the thing, like the things that I did in college, I did with you before. Right. So all of that, you know, kind of radio communication stuff, that was already done in high school. So when I got to Penn, they were like, where's this guy coming from? It's like, we were doing that from freshman year on to senior year. So I came out of the gate flying, you know, as a freshman, because people are like, who is this guy? And why is he doing all this stuff? Well, he's dancing and bringing people together and choreographing. All of that stuff was already done in high school.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt.
Right. So the reason why I'm able to even pick up the phone after a couple of times going back and forth with you, say, Ed, this is what I'm doing, blah, 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 blah. You have a point of reference.
Yeah. So who's visiting first? Am I coming there to Switzerland, or are you coming here? And how come I can't find Basel on, I tried to send an alarm. I can't even talk to Siri. What time is it in Basel, Switzerland? And it doesn't come up. Keeps coming up.
Just because Siri doesn't know where it is doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Look, I'll believe Basel is the headquarters of the what is it? I should know this. The BIS, the Bank of International Settlements. Okay, so that is the head of all the central banks in the world. The headquarters is in Basel.
So Swiss bank again. So,
so if you put in Bank of International Settlements, right, I'm sure, or maybe ask Siri, where is the Bank of International Settlements, Siri?
All right, let's do it. Let's try it. Let's try it. All right.
And see if Siri knows.
Hey Siri, where is the Bank of International Settlements?
Here's what I found.
Bank of International Settlements doesn't exist. No, I'm kidding. It says Basel.
What, you were so ill. You know what I mean? Yeah. I thought they were going to say it. Siri doesn't say it?
No, he popped up a link.
I popped up a link and showed you where it was, right?
It'd say Basel, Switzerland. Very cool.
Yeah,
no, I'm trying to get back out there in the world, man.
Well, look, once the thing, this health issue, you know, worldwide blows over, hopefully, then, you know, it's all.
Did you get the jab?
I have not gotten the jab.
I got my first one. I got my second one in less than 2 weeks.
All right, well, you keep me posted. Let me know how it works out. You let me know.
Grow another hand out of the side of my head.
You let me know how it works out for you.
A lot of people here are getting them. Like most of the people around me directly that I know have gotten at least one, if not more.
Of course. Hey, look, but you know why I'm even reacting the way I am. So I don't need to explain to you. Look, I'm going to let you. Is there anything else that you want to add? Make sure that you promote, and we're going to get this up as soon as possible. Like, I mean, I don't have to work tomorrow, so we're going to get this up and put it out there, and you can do whatever you need to do with it.
Yeah, I wanted to plug my website again. Go check out blackeyevision.com, obviously, but I wanted to, again, talk about briefly just what we talked about before. But remember the petition that I created on moveon.org was fight back against police brutality and murder. Popped back up again because of the testimonies, the witness testimonies at the George Floyd trial, the Chauvin trial. And the young lady that shot the video that most people saw went on the stand in a very emotional testimony about how she was a teenager and she was taking a 9-year-old child to the store. She sent the child into the store and went back out and videotaped what she witnessed. And she broke down about how she apologizes every night. She's so emotionally destroyed. And the word she used was, because I didn't do more to help save your life. And that's what my petition was speaking to at the heart, was how nobody should have to stand by and watch somebody be murdered right in front of them and stand there helpless to do nothing. Some people felt like the petition was too radical because nobody would ever, do anything to try and stop a police officer in the line of duty or however it was. But I just implore people, if you check it out and read the wording, I spoke to all of those issues about, it's not about jumping on and beating up police. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with our God-given human rights not to have to watch somebody be murdered right in front of us when there was enough people around to affect a change. And I described how that could go about, how it could look, the processes involved. Even the people don't have that kind of discipline. They'll just turn an angry mob. I spoke to all that in the petition, spoke to all of that. And I just hope and pray that people will go check it out, read it, because I think it's very, very important. Because as we saw, what happened after all of that stuff, it didn't stop, and it hasn't stopped. And I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon.
Where can people find the petition?
I'll put a link up on the website. It's on my Facebook page. I might put it up on Instagram, but mainly just go to moveon.org and type in "Fight Back Against Police Brutality and Murder." And just please read it. I mean, all of those questions. I've talked to congressmen and I've talked to friends, and I've had the gamut of questions about all the things that people are reticent about. And I believe I covered it. I think it's important. That young lady, when she said the other day on that stand that she apologizes to him and prays every night because she didn't do more. She hit me right in the heart with that, because that's what I felt. And that's why I created the petition. So I know there are other people out there in the world that feel the same. And it is not about violence, and it is not about retribution. It's about our rights. And it's important. And it could be very important going forward if we can affect some change. Legislative change. It's very real. We're seeing it happen all the time. Things are changing, and we have to push it along. We have to stay behind. Just read the damn thing, and if you believe it, share it with some other people. Click it, sign it. And I've gotten some interest, but it's just not enough signatures yet. But the news media says I've gotten contact, and they're just like, "Well, when we get more signatures and interest, we'll bring you on and talk about it."
I think. Well, again, this platform, this was my intention with this platform, which is there were not enough people that are talking about the things that we care about. And when I say we, it's the people that you and I know, right? And a whole bunch of people that are on television getting their say, and it doesn't really sync up with what we believe in, right? On a whole lot of levels. Right. So,
what I would love is, because I kept meaning to do a video speaking to just what we spoke about that, and posting that as opposed to just this link online that people are going to have to be trusted to read. And I never quite got around to doing it. I don't know what it is about that, but possibly this portion of this interview, I could just carve that out and use that as a plea to hopefully get this passed. And one of the congressmen that I had peripheral contact with about this topic is now with Joe Biden at the White House, and he's on the advisors to the president, and I'm hoping to get some more access to him. But I'm not going to make the final approach to him until I have more support, more people behind it, even some media behind it. And I think it's a good idea. I
don't want to go too long because we're about to get cut off. But let's talk about the next steps, or things that we can do. Right? I mean, it doesn't have to be a cutout of this. We can actually do a standalone. It's nothing that's stopping us from doing that.
Very cool.
I will let you go on that note before this camera blows out. and then we won't have a finished product for you to,
What kind of camera are you using, huh?
use.
So what kind of camera you got there?
Well,
Blowing up?
look, we talk about that behind the scenes. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'll let you go. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you, man.
time. We're gonna get
Always
this up as
talking to you.
soon as we can. Tomorrow is another holiday for us here in Switzerland, so I can stay up a little later and work on it.
Oh, that's right. It's night over there, huh?
Yeah, and it's Easter Monday. We have Easter Monday off here, so.
Oh, very cool. All right,
Yeah.
man. Thanks again. Always.
All right.
Yeah, a little shameless plug, BlackEye Vision. Hey, we talked about that hustle.
We're gonna have to do something about your logo too. We gotta work on that too. So we're
Don't say that.
for you to be holding it up like, like, and here it is.
Well, last time I didn't want too shameless of a plug, but
Anyway,
I'll send you some links. You can put the links.
send me some links. All right.
All right, man. Peace.
Take
Thanks.
care. Take
All
care.
right,
See you.